Well, I believe what I'm seeing too in the future of work is it's going more skill set based, right? And I think the future of work is changing too with AI. And I'm curious from your point of view, because we don't always get a CEO who specializes in this, is how do you think AI is going to change the future of work?
The way I think about it is, of course, there is this risk and fear. So everything to do with compliance and ethics and bias absolutely needs to be taken into consideration. As organizations deploy multiple AI systems, Christy, they'll need people who can orchestrate how these systems work together. How can we identify gaps, troubleshoot when things go wrong? As I said, AI ethics and compliance officers, it's going to become one of the most critical roles in organization. So judgment, creativity, ethical reasoning, emotional intelligence, cultural sensitivity, combined with AI literacy. So the mistake would be thinking AI just automates existing work. It's creating.
Hi, I'm Christy Honeycutt, your host for Inside the C-Suite, where execs get real about leadership, impact, and what truly drives high-stake decisions. I'm really excited to have on the show today former colleague Ritu Mohanka. Ritu is the CEO of Vonk, one of Europe's leading recruitment marketing and AI hiring technology companies. With more than 2 decades of experience across global HR tech, she has built a career at the intersection of talent, technology, and human potential. Ritu was raised in a traditional, close knit family. She grew up surrounded by expectations about how girls should behave, what paths were acceptable, and what ambition ought to look like. Her story is shaped by navigating and quietly rewriting those roles. As a global nomad, she learned to adapt quickly, build across cultures, and hold her own in rooms where she was often the only woman of color. This lived experience fuels her commitment to creating fairer, more accessible hiring systems. Rooted in her own journey, Ritu believes deeply that technology can broaden opportunity, reduce bias, and recognize potential beyond the perfect resume or privileged backgrounds. Ritu speaks openly about the human side of leadership, the resilience required, the trade offs that rarely get discussed, and the constant balancing act between high stake work and motherhood. Rather than aiming for perfect equilibrium, she champions seasons of life, knowing when to push, when to pause, and how to lead with honesty in the middle of complexity. Let's jump in. This one's going to be fun. Ritu, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Where are you joining us from today?
Thank you for having me, Christy. Today I'm in Rotterdam in the Netherlands.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I'm in Texas and it's cold.
It's cold here as well. It's dark, gray. I'm always the first one in and last one out, and it's always dark.
Well, we are super excited to have you on the show today and to learn about your journey to being a CEO. And is this your first time CEO role, the one that you're in with Bonk?
It is indeed, Christy. It's my first year old.
So every little girl, well, most little girls grow up and want to be in your seat. So I'm excited to hear your story and how you came up. Being a first time CEO, what was the first 90 days like?
Scary, intimidating, daunting, but also it was like the most liberating moment where I could make decisions really fast if there wasn't consensus. It felt really powerful. And I'm not scared to speak that language. Power comes with a lot of responsibility as well. But it felt really good to be in that power seat where we could make decisions fast and move fast. But at the same time, I felt this real sense of stewardship. Suddenly, I was responsible for the 110 people who worked in this company. I was responsible for the decisions I made, whether it was good or bad or wrong, and for my shareholders and stakeholders and customers and partners. So, yes, it was scary, but it was also so liberating.
That's so wonderful. And so now you've been in, I don't want our audience to think that you just got out of 90 days. You've been in seat for almost 2 years at this point, correct?
I had almost 2 years, I would say 19 months.
Beautiful. And what exactly does Bonk do?
Bonk is a recruitment marketing platform, and we are probably one of the first that have come out with AI screening, where we screen candidates in rather than screen candidates out. We're headquartered in Netherlands, but we have customers across the world, but essentially mostly serve European large enterprises and staffing companies, where we help automate their entire job distribution and job posting, programmatic advertising, but essentially now also moving into ensuring that we make it about less noise and quantity and volume and about quality by AI through AI screening. So we help screen, score, and rank candidates so that recruiters are elevated and they're empowered to really do what they're hired to do.
I know I can speak for many recruiters that they do want to spend time with the individuals, and I believe that AI gives them an opportunity to do that. So I know that we've all kind of heard about bias and the fear of bias within this technology, and you've got a unique point of view. Would you mind sharing that with us?
In terms of bias, let me sort of, Christy, I'll talk more about what AI is doing when it comes to bias. I grew up in a world where I saw no one who looked like me. And I want to create this world where no one who is now growing up and getting into careers have to ever think about that and feel uncomfortable. And what AI is helping us do is exactly that. When we look at CVs, no fault of recruiters, this is systemic. We immediately go at matching keywords. We look at, oh, did you work at which brands did you work? Did you have the same job title before that I'm hiring for? AI does this. It really, if it's based on large language models that are trained well, takes what at least at Monk, what we're doing is it just literally looks at a job description and defines what those 15 most important criteria, the vectors are, and ranks and scores and screens a candidate against those 15 vectors, not keywords matching. And essentially, what that means is let's take a customer support role. A bartender has applied for a customer support role. Immediately, a recruiter would go, no way. But AI screening at Bonk will go, well, this person can work in a high pressure environment, knows how to take complex decisions, and his interpersonal skills has to be great. Well, that person can do a customer support role and will screen that candidate in versus out. And this is what I mean. Finally, we can say we can remove those systemic biases that exist in hiring.
Well, I believe what I'm seeing too in the future of work is it's going more skill set based, right? And I think the future of work is changing too with AI. And I'm curious from your point of view, because we don't always get a CEO who specializes in this, is how do you think AI is going to change the future of work? Are there going to be new jobs created? And if so, what do you think those are?
Absolutely. There's no doubt that AI is going to create many, many new jobs. And the way I think about it is, of course, there is this risk and fear. So everything to do with compliance and ethics and bias absolutely needs to be taken into consideration. But if you think about what AI can do in terms of opportunity, it's creating a lot of other roles that doesn't exist today. If you think about AI orchestration or management roles, as organizations deploy multiple AI systems, Christy, they'll need people who can orchestrate how these systems work together. How can we identify gaps, troubleshoot when things go wrong? Think about human AI collaboration designers, those people who can
Mm.
figure out the optimal division of labor between humans and AI for specific workflows. So I think it'll create lots of other types of job. As I said, AI ethics and compliance officers, it's going to become one of the most critical roles in organization. AI trainers and fine tuners, translation roles, creative roles that augmented by AI. And these roles require uniquely human skills. So, judgment, creativity, ethical reasoning, emotional intelligence, cultural sensitivity, combined with AI literacy. So, the mistake would be thinking AI just automates existing work. It's creating entirely new categories of work we haven't fully defined yet.
And audience, I know you can feel Ritu's passion in this area, which is great. And most people don't know. And in fact, you and I just met outside of some emails and LinkedIn's today, virtually for the first time, but we're former colleagues at one
Ah,
of my favorite places to work in the world, which was Connexa.
it
So
was.
I would love to hear your origination story because you do have a beautiful origination story, and most like women have come up and maybe bumped your head in a few places. So can you kind of share how you grew into this?
I absolutely would love that. So let me take you right back, Christy. So hopefully it's not too long winded, but I grew up in India in a household full of expectations I wasn't supposed to challenge. When it comes to, so I grew up in a very hyper traditional family where girls leave home when they get married. Forget about building careers, forget about anything else. However, I challenged the norm. I broke many glass ceilings. My parents were very supportive. I came to the UK to study, and then I went to Paris to do my MBA. And then I moved to London because I met my going to be husband at that time. But I think why I'm sharing this is that's when I was offered three roles on the same day, a role at Conexa to start. I think I was the third employee outside of the United States, and two other jobs, one of what was supposed to be my dream job in advertising. But I chose Conexa. And guess why? Because they called me 16 times over the weekend saying, "We really want you." And my ego was well massaged. And I was like, I don't even know. I asked them this question, what's going to be my career path? And like, we don't know. We're just starting up in Europe, but here you are if you'd like it. And I could not be more grateful to having said yes to that role. So I came to Conexa in 2023 to in London, a third or fourth employee outside of the United States. And there it went as a roller coaster for me in terms of my career. And I always say I grew up in terms of my career at Conexa. But my defining moment at Conexa was in 2007 when Rudy and Troy, two of the leaders at Conexa, founders, asked me if I would move to Munich to take on a manage an integration of an acquisition we were doing and starting a new region for Conexa, which was Central Eastern Europe. Christy, as you can imagine, new language, new culture, no support system. By the way, I left for Munich without my husband. Period toughened me in ways I still carry. We turned the business around in 18 months. I got the MVP award at our partner retreat. But the real win was learning to lead in a room where everyone doubted you before you even spoke. There were biases, the kind of every woman of color or women in leadership knows too well. Ideas were ignored until repeated by someone else. Being mistaken for an assistant when I was running a big deal, who's in charge, the kind of questions I got. And those moments taught me to prepare obsessively, to document everything, and to build confidence from competence, not validation. And then IBM acquired Conexa in 2012 for a crazy amount of money. I still stayed at Conexa IBM for 5 years. We led the growth of EMEA even further. And then I joined a disruptor, Glint, started EMEA for them, and then another disruptor in the tech space, Syndio, where the mission really was around workplace equity, very, very close to my heart. And now I am at Bonk, and I have the privilege of leading as a first time CEO, building AI that truly transforms hiring while fighting biases at scale.
You are a very strong example of a female leader. And I'm so excited to see what you continue to do. So, as you care for and nurture your employee population, what
Yeah,
guidance do you have?
I'd say I'd say put your hand up before someone asks you. Don't wait to be perfect to raise your hand and say you can do this. And this is particularly applicable to women. And that's my unconscious bias that I have to constantly watch out for. But women particularly take so much time to get themselves to be perfect until they see everything on paper a tick box. They don't put their hand up. Don't wait
Yes.
that moment. Put your hand up. You're ready. You're as good as anybody else around you. So go for it. And if you're ambitious and you're driven, don't wait. Go put your hand up. That would be my single biggest advice. And don't look around the table. If there's anyone who looks like you or speaks like you, do it anyway.
That is such great advice. And I know as women, and I believe that you are a new mom or have a little one around, that tends to rip our life or change the way we work. I know I was a single mom and never missed a practice or a game. I still don't know how I did it. I'm just curious, in your point of view, how are you managing motherhood and all of these, this pressure and these dynamics that you have to endure every day as a CEO?
Yeah. So actually, I'm not a new mom. I'm actually quite old mom, I should say. I have a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old, two boys. But nevertheless, that's another defining moment, Christy, that I talk about a lot, is that really forged me as who I am as a leader. And I think the biggest thing is about, this whole myth around balance.
Mm,
No such thing as balance. It's all about harmony. It's all about seasons.
yes.
I talk a lot about this that, there are seasons when it's about you put everything in your career. And there are seasons when you put all your time and energy in your family and you're bringing up your kids. And there are seasons where you say you're going to do a bit of both, but you're not going to be perfect at either. And I think that this is such a myth about balance. And different chapters prioritize different things. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So if you think about my late 30s, this became my start of family season. I was still at Connexa at that time. I deliberately waited until I reached a senior enough level because I wanted my value proven before taking maternity leave. Now, I wish I hadn't felt that I needed to do that, but I did. And during this season, I still worked hard, but I was very productive of certain boundaries. Now, the current season, which is a CEO of a fast growth company with two teenage boys, this is my integrate everything season. I am leading a company through massive transformation while being present as much as I can for my son's critical teenage years. And some days are wins, and some days are about work wins, and some days are about family wins. But I've accepted that I can't optimize for simultaneously every day. I cannot do that. So in practice, I say no to things that don't serve the current season. I communicate with my family about what season we're on it. So my sons know this month is going to be intense because mama is launching a product and I'll be less available. But after that, we're taking a long weekend or a break together. And I give myself permission to not be perfect in every dimension.
I think that's key. You said two things that really resonate with me. One is harmony. And then the other one is, giving yourself a break, like giving yourself a little grace, right? To show up. And I have this situation that happens a lot because I'll think I'm, type A and a high producer performer. And I'll think, well, I didn't get anything done. I literally have to sit with myself and go, what are you talking about? You just did all of these things, and just allow myself to kind of celebrate the small wins and not get overwhelmed.
Completely, show yourself grace, become more efficient. And that's what motherhood does to you. You become better leaders. Honestly, I have to prioritize ruthlessly. I have more empathy. I understand viscerally why employees are juggling. Why some my employees, when someone needs to take a leave because his child is sick, or I have to take care of them. I get it. That empathy creates loyalty and trust. And then long-term thinking. I'm building a company my sons will enter the workforce into. And that matters. Sort of that makes me think deeply about culture, about fairness, about what kind of workplace I want to create. So these things come because of motherhood. At least for me, that's forged who I am as a leader.
I had a CPO tell me once, and it just stood with me forever. Be the type of environment that you would want your sons and daughters to work at. And
Totally.
if you can't answer, I do not want my son or daughter to work here,
Totally.
you might need some changes to happen quickly.
Absolutely. And if I may add just one other thing here is at the same time, it's also complicated, Christy. If you think
Oh,
about
for
guilt,
sure.
there's always guilt. Missing school plays or a rugby match or a cricket match, being distracted during dinner because I'm thinking about a decision, that guilt doesn't go away. So don't punish yourself about it. And then, second thing I'll just say is judgment. Early in motherhood, I felt judged by so many parents who didn't work. Why is she always traveling? Even colleagues who didn't have kids. Is she still committed? I've learned to stop caring about others' opinions. That took time. It just it took time to get there, but I just don't care about those opinions anymore.
Well, and I think that I've seen a lot of mean girls in the working environment too, right? And it's just like, guys, we're all human. For me, we're all energy at the end of the day. So when you walk in a room, are you bringing good energy or are you bringing bad energy? Anything else doesn't matter and it's nobody's business, right? I love this is very practical guidance. So early on in the conversation, you talked a little bit about, at the executive level, the imposter syndrome and how it's sophisticated. I would adore for you to share that because I feel like myself and many other people, male and female, have all experienced this. Can you share your experience?
Yeah, at the executive level, imposter syndrome isn't about whether you qualified for the role. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. You have the track record, you have the experience, you have the results. It's about more existential questions that are much harder to answer. Things like, am I the right person for this moment? Maybe I was the right CEO when I joined 19 months ago. But is this the skill set needed now? Should someone else with different strengths be leading through this particular challenge or transformation we're going through? The second is, I keep saying, am I moving fast enough? I constantly question myself. You're surrounded by news of other CEOs making bold moves, raising huge rounds, selling their companies for big sums of money, scaling aggressively. And you wonder, am I being too cautious? Am I being too slow? And then the third thing, it's also about judgment and perspective. You're making decisions constantly with incomplete information. 6 months later, you'll know you were right, But in the moment, you're relying on the judgment built over decades and still constantly questioning it. Do I belong to this peer group? So the sophistication comes from the fact that you can't point to a simple credential or skill gap. It's not, I need another degree or I need more experience. You have these things. The doubt is more subtle, more persistent, and harder to logic your way out of it.
So when executives find themselves in this moment, what signals do they see that maybe they can pause and recenter? And how would you recommend, like, what's worked for you to kind of pause and recalibrate?
Great question. Great question. I would say it's really about how it looks for me personally. One is second guessing in silence. So I can't
Mm.
show up to my team riddled with doubt. I totally believe in vulnerability, and we'll talk about what leaders don't do. At least I haven't seen leaders do as I was growing up in my career. So I'm not saying we should not demonstrate vulnerability, but I can't show up to my team riddled with doubt. They need clarity, they need confidence from me, particularly. So the second guessing happens internally, often late at night when I'm reviewing decisions. So that's the one thing that I sort of think about a lot. Over preparing for everything. Even though I've led organizations for decades, I still over prepare for board meetings, investor discussions, budget discussions, strategic decisions. And part of this is a little bit is discipline because part of it is imposter syndrome whispering. You need to be 3 times as prepared because someone's going to question whether you belong here. So that's a little bit about the imposter syndrome. And then comparing myself to other CEOs. I'll read about another CEO's success and think they seem so certain. They're making bold moves. Am I moving fast enough? Am I bold enough? It's irrational, but it's there. And this whole luck narrative, even after 25 years in the industry, a part of me still wonders, was I just in the right place at the right time, as I said earlier? So I constantly tell myself, you can have all these moments, but it needs to be done in silence. It needs to be done. And what really helps me is what would I tell someone else in this exact situation? That's the one thing I constantly tell myself. And if a mentee came to me with the same doubt, I'd look at the evidence, their track record, their results, the trust others have placed in them. So I do that for myself now and say, I document evidence, I review the outcomes, I make decisions based on data, not feelings. And I also talk about it openly to other CEOs and mentors. And every single time they say, oh, I feel that too. Even the most confident seeming leaders admit they question themselves. So imposter syndrome doesn't go away. You just get better at recognizing it, naming it, and not letting it drive your decisions.
I love that, recognizing it and naming it. That's powerful. Very powerful. There's a lot of toxic workplaces where people will manifest this stress, this perceived notion of they're not performing, and it manifests into their body. So there's a book about this called The Body Keeps the Score. I'm just curious if you've seen that, if you've seen toxic work environment show up in your wellness or your employees' wellness, and if there's guidance that you've seen that can maybe help usher in a healthier wellness for these employees and yourself.
Such a great question and an important one for us to all talk about. There are signals, Christy. I always say figure out what those signals are, whether it's physical signals around not sleeping well, feeling exhausted all the time, tension in your upper neck, shoulders, shorter temper with your family, because of course that's where you are most vulnerable as a human being.
Yep.
Some of them behavioral signals. Even I see these signals sometimes, over preparing to an unhealthy degree. Even though I prepare, avoiding difficult conversations, second guessing decisions I've already made. And then there are emotional signals, such as feeling like I'm failing everyone, or loss of curiosity. Suddenly I can't be asked, whatever, or cynicism creeping in. When I notice these things, it's really important for us to say, let's do a few things differently. Let's journal. I don't know, it sounds a bit corny, but it works. I promise you. Talk to your mentor or another CEO or your peer if you're not a CEO yet. Review the evidence. I look at the actual outcomes. What have we achieved? What's working? What's the data? That really grounds me. And then please take a break. I say that to myself as well. Take a break. Sometimes I just need a weekend completely unplugged. No email, no Slack, just time with either my family. And sometimes even break from the family just to have that time for yourself and remind myself why I'm doing this. If you can reconnect everything to a purpose or a mission, and at Wonk, I feel very special that we have such a strong one. We're building AI that makes hiring fairer and more human, that purpose recenters me every single time.
And I believe you're naturally built for it. If we look back at your career and everything, all the work you did and all the things that you overcame and where you are today, you're naturally built for this moment in time. So good choice, Vonk. You guys got a really good CEO over there. So, what boundaries do you think? I know we talked about some things to cope, but are there certain boundaries that you set at home or at the office or with people to kind of protect that space?
Totally. For me, it's this, Christy. No emails after 8 p.m. if I can help it, or before 7 a.m. unless it's genuinely urgent, and protecting 6 to 8:30 p.m. as uninterrupted family time when I'm at home in London. Earlier in my career, Christy, I was always on. And I thought it was a sign of weakness if I wasn't showing I'm working hard and working nonstop. Midnight
Same.
emails, immediate replies, phone always in the hand. I thought responsiveness equaled commitment. Today I work differently. I still work very hard. People still probably think I'm a workaholic. But when I'm home with my family, especially as I said between 6 and 8:30 p.m., I'm present. Whether it's my family or my friends, they know I am present. I don't even have my phone anywhere near me. Phones can wait, emails can wait. I screen my calls. For those who are hearing, might not enjoy this. I screen my calls and pick up only those that truly requires my attention. And I've been really explicit with my team. If I send something late at night because I'm catching up or over the weekend, it's not a signal to respond. It's not urgent. I'll call or text if it's can't wait. And why these boundaries matter? It models something healthier. It makes me better at
Yes.
my job. It makes me better as a mother and as a wife and as a friend. It protects those relationships that matter the most. Years ago, I would have been terrified to set a boundary like this. So I tell people who are coming into world of work, do your best, work hard, but don't be terrified to take a break. I was always worried about people would see this as a lack of commitment. It isn't. Now I see the opposite is true. The leaders I respect the most have boundaries, and protecting your energy isn't luxury, it's leadership.
Protecting your boundary isn't luxury, it's leadership. That is a quote. That is spot on. I love it. And you made me think of another quote from somebody that said legacy over likes, because I feel like we've come up in such a social environment where we associate algorithms and likes to meaningful contributions. It doesn't matter. It's the legacy you're leading, the legacy you're building. So if we were to talk about what's the legacy that you're hoping to leave?
Christy, I say this always, honesty and reliability. Can people always fall back on me and consider me to be reliable? And second is absolute honesty and authenticity. I am grew up in a career where I didn't see leaders being vulnerable ever. I am completely the opposite. I am actually probably too vulnerable in front of my team, but it's okay. And I would say for me, that's the legacy I want to leave. Someone, I want people to say, she worked really hard. She took fast decisions, but she was always honest and she was always reliable and she knew how to have a good party.
So, okay, taking it way back to the Rudy Carson Connexa days, do you remember the Tenexans?
Oh, yes, I remember the Tenexa. I still think about it. They were the
I
best.
do too.
They were the best thing that came out of Conexa for me, the Tenexa.
So if you weren't in the inside crew and you don't know what the Tenexans are, it was the 10 mission vision basically for the entire organization. And we did this huge rollout where there was we had them framed and we had mugs. And I just remember there were 10 of them. My favorite was number 2, which was laugh your way through a problem.
Yes.
It because it was like, we're all in it together. Let's just have a good time, get it done and do the right thing. So that always resonated with me. What do you remember what your
Oh,
favorite was?
knew you were going to say that. There was one that I don't remember the exact words, but it said something about organizational structure replace. Do you remember that one? Was it friendships or something around that? Is it what an
Yeah.
organizational hierarchy? I've got to go look this up. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so. But yeah, the fun one was definitely one. My gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I don't remember them right now, but they were so. I
No.
love them all. I love them, every single one of them. I related to every single.
Well, and that was such and we both have marketing backgrounds, but that was such a great connection between people, purpose, mission, vision, and everybody was like, "Let's go." it was powerful, right? And I feel like that's kind of the environment. I feel like that's the environment you've created at Bonk. So
So
now as we look at mistakes, pivots, and leadership maturity, because you have been through it, I'm curious, what's a mistake that you've made as a leader that you're grateful that you made?
probably, even though I grew up at Connexa, probably one of the biggest mistakes that I'm actually grateful for is I did not invest enough in building cultures in my early parts of my career. And I think that for me, when I look back, I am so grateful that I learned from that mistake that there is nothing more important for a leader, or particularly for a CEO or a C suite leader. Nothing is more important than building culture. So I think that was probably one of the things I reflect quite a bit on, that in my early career, I cared about results and performance than anything else. And I'm not saying I don't care about results and performance today, but I have to say that I look back and say building a culture for me, a good working culture where friendships thrive and where there is authenticity and honesty and collaboration, that goes far more. And then, of course, performance comes as a result of that. So I think that was probably my biggest failure or mistake I made in my early stages of my career.
That's definitely propelling you to be the leader you are today, which thank God for that, right? So, we talked a little bit about a lot today, which I'm so grateful for your time. One other question I have for you is, and I'm going to look down because this is written, is if every employee had a personalized AI development agent, how would work change?
Oh my gosh, we would democratize coaching. Oh my gosh, that would be so cool. Just imagine that every employee could go to a coach and just get some help. Especially, I hate using the word mid level for the lack of a better term, but employees in that sort of middle layer, they just want more feedback. They want to be able to just quickly see, can I get some feedback, some that's personalized real time coaching. An AI coach can say, here's how you came across in that meeting. Here's an alternative framing. Here's a skill gap you might want to address. Second, continuous learning tailored to you personally. Everyone talks about learning management systems that have become personalized, but just imagine, instead of generic learning programs, the AI knows your role, knows your gaps, knows your learning styles, knows your career aspirations, and it surfaces relevant content, suggests stretch projects. So it isn't just about learning for the sake of learning, that connects you with your mentors. Then proactive career pathing. Nobody does that anymore properly. Can we really help AI see the patterns you might miss? People with your skills and interests are often should move into these roles. Here are 3 career paths, Christy, that you might want to consider. It could help people navigate internal opportunities they didn't know existed. So I think it's huge if we could make that happen for every single employee. That's democratizing coaching.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty powerful for sure. All right, so we're going to get to the golden nuggets, the end of the interview here.
Okay.
So, what is one question that you wish more people ask senior leaders, but they rarely do?
What are you actively unlearning right now?
Ooh,
Everyone asks, what have you learned? But really, what are you unlearning? Because the truth is, as you advance in leadership roles, some of the things that made you successful earlier actually hold you right back at the higher levels. Especially for me, examples of what I've had to unlearn is I don't need to be an expert in the room all the time. That used to be me. I've got to be an expert. And second thing is delegation is weakness. That used to be the way I used to be. Now I've got to delegate. So I really say nobody asks this question, what are you unlearning?
I'm unlearning saying yes to everything. That's my personal one.
See how you fare on that.
I'm working on it diligently. And then, what's one lesson that you've learned the hard way that you hope the next generation learns faster?
I wish I had learned much earlier that you don't need to be 100% ready before you raise your hand. For
Yes.
years, I held myself back, convincing myself I need more experience, I need another qualification, I need more proof. Meanwhile, I watched others, mostly men,
Yep.
forward at 50 to 60% readiness and grow into those opportunities. They weren't more capable. They were simply less afraid of being imperfect. And so the hard won truth is this: readiness isn't a requirement, it's a result of stepping in. So just go in and step in and have that courage.
You are the inspiration people did not know they needed today.
So that's
All right. Final question for you here. Well, I got two more for you. So, what's lighting you up right now? And what ideas of future bets are you obsessed with?
Being a first time CEO in the middle of an industry shift, that's what's lighting me up. Leading a company through a genuine inflection point where AI is reshaping hiring, compliance, is redefining what responsible looks like. We all know that. And customer expectations are changing weekly, is both terrifying and electrifying. Every day feels like a masterclass. And it forces, it really forces you to grow faster, stretch harder, and rethink everything everything you thought you knew about leadership, resilience, and clarity. It's the hardest thing I've ever done professionally and the most energizing.
Such a good answer. Such a good answer. So, Ritu, thank you so much for holding space for me and for the audience. And just before we close, is there any other nuggets that we didn't cover that you'd like to share?
I would say wherever you are, whatever role you do, you have customers. So build everything around your customers, not in isolation. That's the one thing I tell everyone. Our recent launch, which if you haven't seen, please do see, taught me something profound. When you build with customers transparently, iteratively, publicly, the end result is 10 times better. It's changed how I think about product strategy, how teams work, and how companies earn trust.
I could not agree with you more. The power is in your customer base, right? And they're your partners. If you treat them right, they're your partners. So, Ritu, how can individuals, if they've listened to this and they're like, this is amazing, I want to work with Bonk, I want to reach out to you, where should they go to find you?
Find me on LinkedIn or actually go to bonk.com. As simple as that.
Beautiful. Well, thanks again for this wonderful conversation. And guys, run, don't walk over to Bonk.